Welcome to Electronic Arts, now privately owned after a roughly $55 billion takeover by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. First, the financing included around $20 billion in committed debt. Second, buyers reportedly projected almost $700 million in yearly savings. Third, $170 million sits beneath organizational efficiencies, although EA has confirmed neither takeover-related layoffs nor studio closures. Yesterday, the publisher answered public shareholders. Today, it answers private owners, and a mortgage large enough to make Battlefield look like the safer conflict. Tomorrow, employees may discover whether unlocking growth means unlocking the office door after their security badge stops working. Eventually, players will care, because debt never stays inside an investor presentation. Officially, the takeover promises creativity, innovation, ambition, and every noun inside the executive phrase generator. Apparently, escaping the stock market promises freedom, until borrowed billions enter reception, asking who ordered the very expensive role-playing game. Somehow the hero is scale, while the villain is the $20 billion mortgage, a machine helping buy a profitable publisher, then making it fund its own kidnapping. Enter Andrew Wilson, still leading EA, still smiling, and still surrounded by people fluent in strategic alignment. Before this story ends, we will follow the money and discover where $700 million disappears from an already profitable company. Meanwhile, keep one question in your head. When the mortgage wants feeding, who stands nearest the trapdoor? Watch carefully, because the answer will not arrive through one announcement. Instead, each suspect will appear separately, starting with the workers making the games. Beneath the cheerful language sits a simpler arrangement. Investors bought a cash-generating company with enormous borrowing, and the company now faces pressure to produce more, while costing less. Essentially, EA has become the employee expected to repay the loan used to purchase his own office. Most importantly, nobody knows which desk the mortgage visits first right now. Stay alert. While consultants measure my chair for removal, press like, subscribe, and feed the YouTube algorithm its required sacrifice. Consider supporting the channel as well, because invisible overlords demand engagement, watch time, and one human soul before recommending corporate criticism. Unlike EA's takeover, this operation carries no debt package, only emotional damage, and a strategically important bar tab. Crucially, like Bloomberg reported the savings projection on March 23, 2026, months before today's outrage. August 5 made the story hot again, because the acquisition closed on August 4, turning an old promise into a current problem. Therefore, nobody should call the figure a fresh plan, invented over breakfast. Rather, the savings reportedly entered the pitch before the owners collected the keys. Now, the mortgage is inside and ordering dinner. What do annual savings actually mean? Investors were not promised $700 million for stronger servers, larger testing teams, or an EA application behaving like finished software. Among the projected total, $170 million hides beneath organizational efficiencies, making human consequences sound like cupboard cleaning. Management has not confirmed that the entire category represents layoffs. Nobody credible can provide an exact job loss total. Anyone announcing BioWare's funeral has skipped the evidence and sprinted directly into fan fiction for shareholders. Still, efficiency can mean fewer workers, merged teams, cancelled vacancies, outsourcing, or transferred work. Unfortunately, Battlefield 6 already tested whether commercial success protects developers. Months after EA celebrated the franchise's biggest launch, undisclosed cuts affected DICE, Criterion, Ripple Effect, and Motive. Electronic Arts called it a realignment, because cuts after our record launch sounded too honest. All 4 studios remained open, while the exact number remained undisclosed. Success, therefore, provided no body armor. Failure may cost a job, while victory merely delays the meeting until after the cake disappears. Picture an artist who spent years building maps, fixing bugs, surviving delays, and delivering record sales. Imagine that person learning success did not make the position necessary. Suddenly, the mortgage payment starts wearing somebody else's security badge. Behind every euphemism sits a person with rent, groceries, and a useless login. Fiscal results make the rescue narrative ridiculous. Record net bookings reached just above $8 billion. Revenue reached roughly $7.5 billion. Operating cash flow came to about $2.5 billion. Net income stood at $887 million. Clearly, EA was not outside GameStop shaking a paper cup for bus money. Actually, pressure comes from the takeover financing, not EA forgetting how to generate cash. Brilliantly, corporate mathematics improved a profitable company, by attaching a nation-sized mortgage. Naturally, the workers behind success must prove they remain affordable. But employees are only the first suspect. BioWare marks the moment accounting reaches something players care about. Mass Effect remains in development, with no BioWare closure or sale announced. Handcrafted role-playing games require large teams and years of expensive uncertainty. Ultimate Team can sell another virtual footballer before lunch. Comparatively, Mass Effect must justify every companion and alien world against recurring card income. Perhaps private ownership gives BioWare enough patience for something ambitious. Suppose the next Mass Effect survives and sells brilliantly. Conveniently, the mortgage can still demand a sequel made faster, cheaper, and with a premium shop attached. Yet every costly project enters a room where the mortgage heads the table. Worse, EA need not close BioWare to damage what people value. Reducing the team's scope or production time could create the same corpse without a closure headline. Criterion offers another warning. Once known for burnout and need for speed, the studio now serves the larger Battlefield operation. Racing fans can admire burnout like museum visitors admiring an extinct species. Ownership need not erase a logo when management can remove what made it matter. Then, we reach the executive floor, where efficiency suddenly develops depth perception problems. Wilson received about $38.6 million in fiscal year compensation. Filings placed that amount at about 305 times median employee compensation. His package included salary, stock awards, incentives, and benefits, not one giant salary. Accuracy matters because the comparison is already absurd. Efficiency starts downstairs, sees the executive suite, apologizes, and returns to reception. Austerity attacks workers before developing an allergy to corner offices. Companies never say, "We selected your livelihood to improve our financing presentation." Managers announce unlocked value, refocused resources, and extraordinary contributions. Workers then receive a cardboard box containing that gratitude. Next, artificial intelligence arrives, like a chatbot explaining why your refund achieved strategic alignment. Artificial tools may reduce repetitive work, test systems, or accelerate production. EA's own filing links generative artificial intelligence to efficiency, expansion, and transformation. Nothing proves EA intends to replace every artist before Friday. Nevertheless, employees can ask whether those tools support work or justify removing workers. Outsourcing offers the quieter version. Departments can survive while permanent roles disappear and vendors inherit the work. Support remains available, but slower, cheaper, and gifted at automated apologies. Gamers notice when one broken account receives 6 identical replies and a satisfaction survey. Consequently, the mortgage reaches the final suspect, the customer. Players may encounter the pressure through safer sequels, heavier monetization, smaller teams, outsourcing, or cancellations. None of those outcomes is confirmed as EA's final plan. Specific caution does not erase the incentives. Projects with uncertain returns struggle when predictable live service income enters, carrying a chart. Theoretically, a producer can argue that a strange concept might become a major franchise. Privately, an owner can ask whether another sports mode creates steadier cash. Predictably, originality loses against a calculator and $20 billion of financing. Expect deluxe editions with 3 skins, fake currency, and 48 hours of manufactured impatience. Remember when publishers chased trends because they wanted growth. Currently, the savings expectation hangs over a company famous for annual releases and recurring spending. Behold the restraint this arrangement will surely inspire. Ordinary players recognize the boardroom when a beloved series returns as a storefront with gameplay attached. Admittedly, private ownership could protect projects from quarterly panic. Specifically, patient owners can support risky games. Fine, preserve that sentence behind glass before somebody classifies it as underperforming. Mercifully, creative ambition still exists inside EA, which makes the arrangement more frustrating, not less. Surely, the company's talented teams deserve better than becoming line items in a repayment strategy they did not design. Otherwise, every promise about innovation becomes marketing wrapped around a debt schedule. However, replacing quarterly pressure with the mortgage merely changes who holds the stopwatch. Visually, EA's announcement offers clean photographs, broad promises, and no visible debt. Creativity appears as decoration. Innovation appears as reassurance. Developers appear whenever executives need to praise passion. Liability appears only inside the financing documents. Ultimately, the presentation resembles a cruise brochure whose engine room saves fuel by removing engineers. No new mass layoff total has been announced. Likewise, no BioWare closure has been confirmed. Furthermore, the full savings figure has not been assigned entirely to employee cuts. Even organizational efficiencies does not reveal which roles or expenses absorb the amount. Reported facts provide enough material without inventing tomorrow's email. Confirmed details show a roughly $55 billion takeover by PAF, Silver Lake and Affinity Partners. Available reporting describes almost $700 million in projected yearly savings, including $170 million in organizational efficiencies. Recent history shows Battlefield cuts after the franchise's biggest launch. Corporate filings show Wilson receiving about $38.6 million, with a 305-to-1 median worker ratio. Together, those facts answer the mystery, as far as evidence allows. Something must absorb the pressure. Jobs may take part of it. Possibly, projects disappear before the public ever hears their names. Contracts may replace permanent roles, support may become automation, and creative risks may become sequels. Whatever form the savings take, $700 million does not vanish, because an executive says efficiency. Recall the Battlefield artist, who survived delays and helped deliver the record launch. Labels like alignment mean nothing when that artist's badge stops working. So, where does the money disappear? Realistically, nobody outside those rooms knows, but it must come from people, projects, services, players, or all four. Plainly, the villain is not one investor stroking a cat in a fortress. Fundamentally, the villain is the buyout machine, protecting leadership, loading debt onto EA, and treating creators as adjustable cost. Thereafter, customers receive the consequences, while executives pose beside the deal. Tonight, the takeover is complete, but the mortgage has only started playing. Congratulations, Electronic Arts, you became an ultimate team pack. Expensive, questionably financed, full of famous names, and opened by owners hoping the valuable parts remain. Anyway, that is enough corporate optimism for today. Finish your drink, close the spreadsheet, and go away now.